Hey everybody, it's Rob here. In just a few hours from now, today, we're gonna get the Diablo 4 Season 9 developer update here. It's gonna be streamed live. I'm also gonna be streaming it here on YouTube with updates coming to class balance. We're gonna get the new season theme reveal, and we're gonna get the details about the new system that they wanna introduce for the endgame, which is the dungeon escalation, which is kind of like replacing or improving the nightmare dungeon. So here's all the information. The stream is going to be at 11 a.m. PDT, so just in a few hours from now, and we'll learn about the public test server here with all the details. This is the new season, Sins of the Horadrim, dungeon escalation, balance updates, and more. They also said they're going to talk about the reliquary changes, the stuff that they have in the game here right now. That they also want to be working on, basically, and give more feedback and more suggestions, because people have been basically complaining about the reliquary quite a bit. But what I want to be focusing on in this video here is the dungeon escalation and some of the existing problems that we right now have in Diablo 4 with nightmare dungeons. I also asked you guys in the community here what you think are some problems, and obviously maybe they might cook a complete like new system that is like completely different from the existing one, but that might be too much effort. So I'm focusing on some of the, let's say, constructive feedback here that we gathered with you guys here for the nightmare dungeon. So if we go in game, I have a full list. I'm also going to link this below. So if we go in game right now, some of the normal dungeons are nightmare dungeons, and I'm just in a normal dungeon here, and you can kind of see the first problem, and this is like one of the biggest gripes that I always had with the game in the first place, is doors. I think this is like one of the #1 thing to remove if they ever want to make the dungeons good, is to remove all the doors. I don't think a single person likes the doors, and even if you click the door, you see it still takes like a second or something to just even be able to pass. And then here there's another door, and you can't go in there, and you need to click it, and then when you click it, it takes like another 3 seconds or so, and look, there's another door here. So there's basically like no cool game flow in these dungeons, because they're just so... And then here's another door. This is even locked, sealed door behind an objective. And this is just all some BS. Like, it just slows you down like crazy. And I think this door mechanics is completely unfun, and in my opinion should be completely removed, alongside with a change to layouts. Like, maybe this is not the best example here, but there's also like a lot of dead end that you can encounter, or also a lot of objectives that are in part of a dead end. Like, there's like objectives like you need to pick like a rock, or you need to pick like a lever here in the dead end and then backtrack all the way to the door again to open the door, or some of this stuff. Like, this happens a lot, and that is a very big problem. And then also, if you're in a nightmare dungeon here, let's say, you have these like nightmare dungeon keys. Some of them have some modifiers, some positive and negative, but they are not really like impactful at all. And I have a few suggestions here that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, that basically like hopefully this can be addressed in a way. But let's say I'm going into a nightmare dungeon here. Now, obviously, like, one thing that they already did change is that you can instantly teleport to them. So Belfry is like one of the better ones. Obviously, we have a big imbalance. Like, some nightmare dungeons are really good, and some nightmare dungeons are really bad. So this is, for example, a good nightmare dungeon. But then there's like some of the bad ones here. Endless gates, where you have to like click on gates and go through the gates. It's just all slowing you down, like way too much. And another problem that often is talked about here is, you can see here, like, basically me playing normally, I'm never like picking up any of the like crafting materials, Obduxite, which is like one of the main reasons to go into nightmare dungeons, because they're like kind of dropping in the back. And in order to pick it, like, I literally have to, like walk over it to get it. My pet is helping a bit, but it's like very hard to, pick up all this Obduxite. And I think it would be very cool to basically just have them completely auto pick up, even if you don't necessarily like fully go over them. So this Obduxite and material pickup problem, like, you have to like backtrack a lot to pick them, and that's just a big issue, I feel. Then also, like, they are not really a big challenge in the end game. Like, I can even just like chill here AFK, and this guy. This is like one of the like boons, basically one of the negative things that doesn't really like do like any of much to this. And this is like the hardest difficulty in the game. So they're just not challenging, and also not rewarding enough. And again, there's no real reason, I feel, to even have a distinguishing or like a distinction between normal and nightmare dungeons. Like to me, all these dungeons, they could just be like, instead of normal dungeons, they could just be nightmare dungeons in the current system by default. And then, they have like 200 something dungeons in the entire game, but only like 50 of them can even be a nightmare dungeon. And then out of those 50 nightmare dungeons, there's only like a couple of handful of good or decent keys that are even worth farming. Like I would never play like Inferno here or the Endless Gates. It just like takes way too long and it's not efficient at all. So the balance between the different layouts, the different objectives, I feel are just not there at the moment. So there's just so much annoying stuff, that could be a change. So I really hope they look at like the layouts and the objectives and to kind of like balance this much better than it is right now. And then also, I would love to see like a way to really like modify or juice the nightmare dungeons, right? They had this like affixes on the nightmare dungeons, like you get 30% more gold or you get 10% more experience. But you don't really get any reward in the nightmare dungeon anyway. So 10% of 0 experience is still kind of 0 if you compare it with the pits or even the infernal hordes. So this is like kind of not worth it. And then some real rewards would be like a %X multiplier to, let's say, your Obduct side or something. But there could be way cooler stuff. Like I was like thinking you make the dungeon similar to PoE. You give extra modifiers, like more of these like negative things, like this thing here chasing you. I don't know, like we could discuss like which ones are cool and which ones are not. But like more negative impacts, or there's like a big on-death explosion when you kill monsters. Like basically have a boon and a bane system where the harder, the more dangerous you make the dungeon, the more rewards in terms of Obduct side, in terms of experience, in terms of crafting materials you could get. They could even make it like somewhat similar to what they did in Diablo 3 with the Visions of Enmity, where you just have some like crazy stuff happening. Like maybe there's like a random room that is full of bosses, or a random room that is like full of 10 goblins, or like all the elites get some crazy modifiers. I don't know, like you have the pack size stuff in PoE, like significantly increase the density. I feel in general, like density, like if I'm just going here, like there isn't really many monsters, right? You see this? This is like already one of the better dungeons. Like there's like, I don't know, like 10 monsters or so. Like, like here there's another guy. Like it's not really like all too crazy, right? So I feel like adding like more density, like this is the first elite that I've even seen here. I think they could do a lot there with some of the extra density and just add some more monsters in basically. And then here you have the stuff again here where you have to pick up some objective to complete the dungeon. I don't really think like, I'm like blasting and then you have to, I forgot to pick the key. And then you have to like go back and pick the key or pick the Obduct side. So there's a lot of stuff that's like artificially slowing you down. Or maybe you could even have the Butcher or the Hellborn or something like chase you. Like maybe it's even an Immortal Butcher or Immortal Hellborn. Just something that makes it like a big challenge. And then also have a penalty for dying or something. Like that could be a cool idea to make it more exciting basically and make it more of a challenge. I also put this under like more ideas. We could also see like something like the Profane Mind Cages that basically increases the monster level of the Nightmare Dungeon. You can see here, like these guys, they're probably like monster level like 200 or something, maybe not even. But they could basically like just make the monsters harder and then give more XP, more rewards, and more density or something like this, right? So I feel there's like a lot of stuff that could be done here. And then one other suggestion here, like if you're looking at the boss fight. So first of all, not every Nightmare Dungeon has even a boss fight. So some Nightmare Dungeons you just finish without even fighting any boss whatsoever. And I feel in general, the new Nightmare Dungeons are way cooler in Nahantu. They have followed like a new principle, like all these green keys are the Nahantu ones. And all these Nightmare Dungeons that spawn in Nahantu, they always have a boss and they don't have any annoying objectives. So I feel kind of they already like realized their mistake with this like objectives in the Nightmare Dungeon. That's like just pretty boring basically. And they already fixed it for the Vessel of Hatred new dungeons. But the old dungeons still need an update. And really hope that is coming. And we just basically gonna have the objectives. Like you just kill the boss basically. You don't have to like do any shenanigans, any levers, picking up some stones or some stuff. Like you basically just go through the dungeon and you kill the boss if you like. And then you get like a bonus reward. But then I also feel the boss fight needs to be a bit more challenging. Like, some of these bosses, like maybe Seahawk is fine, but there's still like Tomb Lord, and some other bosses that don't really like pose like any challenge really, even for like non-meta builds, like they still like kind of easy. And I don't really know if they really like deserve the name like boss. I think they could make the boss way more scary, way more mechanics, and way harder, and then also way more rewarding in the end. Like you kill the boss, you get some like big benefit. Maybe they can even make like a full like progression system in the game. Like before we upgraded our glyphs in Nightmare Dungeons. That's now happening in the pits. So Nightmare Dungeons kind of like don't really serve like any like purpose of doing power creep. So that's why people mostly ignore it. Some people farm them, used to farm Obduxite there, but again, there's just better ways to farm it, like Hordes or the Undercity, like Nightmare Dungeons in general, are kind of like a dead game mode at the moment. So I'm more overall like really happy, you know, that Blizzard is gonna take a look at these Nightmare Dungeons and hopefully gonna like expand the end game like this and make them like much more of a challenge and much more interesting, much more rewarding. And yeah, maybe like we're gonna have some of these choices as the player as well, so that we get better layouts and we can like juice them and make them harder. But also, if we make them harder, make them more rewarding. I feel like a big problem that Diablo has, you can especially see this in the pits. They made the pits so hard, like they increased the scaling, and pit 100, pit 110 is actually a real challenge. But the rewards completely stopped scaling. So they made the content very hard, but they completely forgot to buff the XP. They completely forgot to buff the loot. And I feel like it's just like unfinished, basically. Like when they only make it hard, but then they make it not rewarding, so no one even does it, right? Like the high pits, like there's not really any point of doing that. So I really hope the Nightmare Dungeons is not going to end up like this. Like they make it hard, but then they don't make it rewarding, right? So they need to either significantly boost the number of Obduxite or like give crafting materials there, or, you know, give us a reason basically to do the Nightmare Dungeons. And if they're hard, and there could be like a new progression, a new power creep system, whatever it's going to be, we'll probably learn about it later today. And then just in a quick other news, let me know what you think about the Nightmare Dungeon, the dungeon escalation system, and what you think is coming, because Blizzard has not really said anything, but again, we're going to get this update. And then we also have some of the class balance stuff that I really hope that they address. I already talked about this, like fixing the snapshots, adjusting the overpower calculation, like overpower builds are just overperforming like crazy. I really hope that we're going to see very significant buffs to underperforming builds today. You know, we're looking at like pure Whirlwind Bar, pure Hoda, like a lot of like core builds in general that are weak, like definitely a lot of Druid builds, like pretty much all the Druid core skills are underperforming, and it's all ultimates. And then also like to the Spiritborn. Spiritborn has been getting the short end of the stick ever since it was OP in Season 6, so really hoping for some crazy Spiritborn love here as well in the next patch. And then again, we talked about the relic crate changes, and then just maybe, guys, with this new Sins of the Horadrim, which is the season theme, and the new Horadric powers today, I'm really kind of hoping that we're gonna get like, I don't know, like maybe even some sort of like a crafting system, like maybe something with the Horadric cube, but maybe it's basically just gonna be the Horadric powers, and that's it for the season theme. We'll see. I'm sure excited, guys. We'll be live here on YouTube and also on Twitch covering all this, and then I'll also have a summary for you if you can't watch the Campfire chat today. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Let me know what you're expecting and what you're hoping for here down below, and I will see you live here in a few hours. Let's go. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.